Sorry about the coffin. You know, long after I'm dead and gone, I'm going to still live on, thanks to Google, which I named. The founders of Google, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, won't give me credit for their namesake, but 3 decades before they were even born, I wrote an ad for the Sierra Club. The headline was, "Don't Muddy Up the Google." But more about Google later. Meanwhile, let's take a look-see at my movie, Google, The 9 Lives of Me. This movie is about me. It's not about you, it's about me. Talk about the 9 lives of cats. How about my 9 lives? It's entitled Me. If you don't want to watch it, oh, me. Me, 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 me. It's entitled Me. The 9 Lives of Bob Pritikin. Me. It's about me, the piano player. It's about me, the military hero. It's about me, the author of 3 books. It's about me, the hotel owner. It's about me. It's about many of me's. It's about me, the university professor. It's about me, friend of the stars. You recognize this guy? That's the famous Mickey Rooney. It's about me, the ad executive. It's about me, the impoverished little kid with no shoes.
Bob had no shoes. Bob and I lived in what is now considered a impoverished state.
It's about me, the many me's. Incidentally, this little movie entitled Me, I don't want it to be too self-serving, but this little movie, like a television movie, has commercials. Now, what's the relevance of having commercials in the movie about me? Well, it's because I wrote and produced all of these commercials, which incidentally, you'll hear about my interesting, if not bizarre, life as an advertising executive later. But let's start one of my commercials. I know this commercial very well because I wrote it, I produced it.
I want your body.
Phone 445-0711.
I want your body.
Phone 445-0711.
I want your body.
445-0711.
And I want it now.
I want your body at the European Health Spa to be exercised and pampered into a new vitality. I want your body to have nutrition, the beauty that once it had, to have tone and trim muscularity. I want your body to visit the world's largest and most prestigious organization of health clubs, the European Health Spa.
I want your body now.
Your first trial visit free.
And here are some folks you have met before. And Nipsey, if you're ready to question Bob, start now.
Bob, are you a musician?
Yes, I am. I billed as America's foremost concert saw player.
But I mean, are you a basic musician, another
yes.
instruments?
Mhm.
Do you play legato or pizzicato?
I play both.
Do you use a bow when
Oh,
you
yes.
play pizzicato?
On the saw, of course.
When you play pizzicato, do you use your bow?
Oh, yes.
I see.
Break a nail.
Does Bob play the saw? Yes or
Not
no?
if he's playing pizzicato with a bow, he doesn't.
That's a no for Bob.
be very
The
careful with
decisions
the
have been made, and now it's time for the truth.
Oh, wouldn't this be
Will the real saw virtuoso please stand up?
I think he got it. He knows which way to pick. It's not Bob.
Yes, it is.
It's about me, the musician. In this case, America's foremost saw player.
Very good, my friend. Come on over.
Well, it's not often we have an artist of your stature on the program. But first I have to ask you, why did you take up the saw?
Everybody else was putting it down. Somebody had to take it up.
I see. I was told that you have actually recorded an album on saw. Now, I don't know if you've seen it. How's it done?
My album, I was very pleased. First of all, it was produced by... Yes, there's a song in my saw. It's the title of my long-playing album.
This is serious. It's a regular...
And, of course.
I'm not kidding.
And it was produced by the four-star Acme Recording Distributing Company in Turlock.
Yeah.
And the people think it's a joke. It's a novelty. It's not a novelty. My distributors informed me last Tuesday, I believe it was, that this so-called novelty album, for your information, is going into its third pressing.
It is?
Third pressing.
That's terrific. That's
terrific.
terrific.
I was delighted, as you can understand. My distributors were terribly delighted. They indicated they had sold two, and they were going to press a third.
Get out of here! I can't help but notice you're dressed rather formally, but the tennis shoes. Is this part of some kind of relaxation technique, or what?
I've seen and respected and observed your show many, many times, and I know it's a dignified show. And accordingly, I did not come in my bare feet.
Oh, I see.
That's why I'm wearing
your usual concert attire. You know, before...
I usually wear attire, but this time I wore this
outfit. I say, you're one of the few musicians I know that gets his instruments at Black & Decker, though. You know. Do you play any other things besides the saw?
I have been known to play the pliers in a pinch.
I see.
You know, some guys wind up serving burgers at McDonald's or burritos at Taco Bell. I wound up serving my country in the United States Coast Guard for 4 years. This poor guy's pilot, he crashed into the ocean with his airplane, and then that's me trying to help him get out of the water. And then that was followed with, I tried to give him artificial respiration, I think for probably 40 minutes. Didn't work, the poor guy never made it. Anyway, this was the rescue boat I was on for a number of years. And I believe that's me up on the top with the searchlight. I think I'm still searching for the light. Liberace, or Lee as he preferred to be called, and his then boyfriend, extortionist supreme Scott Thorenson, paid me a visit. Lee pounded out some, I guess you'd call them digital miracles on my Steinway keyboard and accompanied me for a few musical classics on the musical saw. Boy, that was an evening I won't soon forget. Here's a picture of one of my favorite murderers, Cheryl Crane. She did a little time for the stabbing murder of mobster Johnny Stompanato, who she caught attacking her mother, movie glamour puss Lana Turner. Cheryl wrote these affectionate words to me in her book, A Hollywood Story. To Bob, a very dear friend and special gentleman. Love, Cheryl. Here's to a great talent and also my high school buddy, Academy Award winner Joel Grey, and his charming daughter, who is the star of the movie Dirty Dancing, Jennifer Grey. Now, here's a guy who reminded me that cocaine is God's way of telling you you're making too much money. He checked into my hotel. I mean, it was my hotel. I owned the hotel. At the time, Robin Williams was TV's Mork. And the only guest room we had left at the hotel was, well, we called it the Subterranean Garden Suite. The room was funky, but it was fun. That evening, I was scheduled to perform a magic show. There we go. That's the end of that. Forget it. And it was not my pleasure to have a bunch of kiddies in the front row. Now, the now famed Robin Williams was seated in the back row. Hey, Robin, I implored the current movie icon. You like doing kiddie shows? The movie icon leaped onto the stage and had the Muppets in the front row howling in laughter. Robin, I can still hear the laughter ringing through the Victorian showroom.
I'm looking for trouble, and I don't care what people say.
Jane Russell. You know, you starred with Sinatra and Gable, and you also starred with me as my co-host at a big charity benefit at my house. Jane, you should forget what Bob Hope said when he introduced you as the two and only Jane Russell. And if we must belabor bust jokes, oh, why not? Because of your lifetime gift to needy children through WAIF, I would be inclined to describe you as more like the Mother Teresa, packaged in a 36 double D bra. That's not the Jane Russell I knew. The golden Boychik of mainstream pop. Well, he had 19 songs reach the top 10. He married Debbie Reynolds, and he married Liz Taylor, and he wound up as my roommate with needles in his arm and a shattered career. Here I am with Eddie Fisher, our giddy smiles, hiding the pain in this pre-operation facelift to help lift his fading career. And these are the adoring surgeons trying to save face, no pun intended. You know, Eddie sang for my guests at my annual party. The voice was substantially gone, but not the charm that this megastar shared with all his friends, including his ersatz brother, me.
I'm your host, Bob Pritikin. Welcome to my 11th annual Labor Day party. Now, let me tell you, it's great joy for me to have gathered some 500 of my dearest, closest friends here today, many of whom I've actually met. Now, I know a lot of you people think this party is sort of over the top. Yeah, but let me assure you, it's really over the rainbow. That's what we're talking about. And may we have a little rainbow music, please, in the background from the orchestra. Why over the rainbow? Well, I'll tell you the main reason. It's because our special guest, Tammy Faye, whom you're going to meet shortly, is under herself a fabulous rainbow.
Tammy, your stick was pretty good, but your lipstick was even hotter.
I've been just delighted to meet Bob Pritikin. I have never met such an interesting man in my life. We have laughed and laughed and had such a good time together. He is, I think, just one of a kind.
The famed evangelist sang her heart out with a gang of evangelical fans at my annual Labor Day party. Let's give a look and listen.
higher and higher, higher and higher. Daily hiding me and hit the bounding love. When I stumble, he gives me a little love. Jesus keeps taking me higher and higher, higher and higher, higher and higher. He keeps on lifting me higher and higher, higher and higher, higher and higher. Woo! 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 Well, Jesus keeps taking me higher and higher, higher and higher, higher and higher. He keeps on taking me higher.
The poor dear, she died shortly after my party. She really evaporated down to some 65 pounds, but like a fine perfume, her sweet scent will be lingering in my home for a long time to come. Well, here I am with Johnny Cash. We're working on a musical commercial, but he had me rewrite a couple sentences in the lyric because, according to Johnny, I don't sing double negatives. He and his wife, June Carter, made me a great chili lunch. Fabulous voice may be gone, but Johnny is still with us on this forever U.S. postage stamp.
Because you're mine, I walk the line.
There is no business like show business. I think Mickey Rooney would have agreed with that idea. The single best film actor America ever produced. That's what Laurence Olivier said about Mickey Rooney. As far as I'm concerned, one of the great born-again Christians. And he stood up with outstretched arms and blessed a quickie impromptu meal at my house. I believe the entree was frozen Costco Wiener Schnitzels. Mickey, you and your umpteenth wife, Jan, are surely among my favorite house guests. Come by anytime for lunch or dinner. You know, I'm going to miss you, and so will a few million other people. Here's Barbra Streisand.
Memories like the corners of my mind.
You know, Barbra Streisand stayed in my bedroom, but not with me. It was a fancy Louis XV designed bedroom. I asked this giant star if she would sign the wall in the guest room she was occupying. And she wasn't in the mood to do that because she claims she was quite a dedicated housekeeper herself. Here's what she wrote to the staff. Dear staff, I'd be delighted to sign your guest book, but being a compulsive housekeeper myself, I would kill anyone who signed my walls, especially in such a lovely room. Hope you understand, Barbra Streisand. So anyway, what happened is she wouldn't sign my wall, but I did get somebody to sign a check for $35,000. Because when I closed the hotel down, I had this gorgeous bed, a bed that Barbra Streisand slept in. So this guy paid $35,000 to buy the bed that Barbra Streisand slept in. Unfortunately, she wouldn't be in the bed at the time. Not a bad rate for a one-nighter, huh?
The way we were.
Here's a buddy of mine and a true hero to millions. Tom Cruise played him in the hit movie Born on the 4th of July. He's the indomitable war hero, Ron Kovic. Is this voice familiar to you? Well, she happens to be Carol Channing, one of the great Broadway stars. And let me assure you, a great hugger, too. And she posed for me in this remarkable collage portrait by innovative artist Jason Mercier, displayed in my parlor. It's amazing how beautiful a deodorant can, a cigarette butt, and a Trojan condom box can be if you arrange them to be Carol Channing. And this little guy, he grew up to be John F. Kennedy, Jr., a treasured friend and guest at my hotel. Here's a snapshot of me with the scandalized, fabulous slugger Barry Bonds. That's me on the left. Decades ago, I was the president of my UCLA fraternity, and here I am initiating the world's renowned comic, Jack Benny, into my fraternity. And there were so many more. Please excuse my insufferable name dropping. But some of these luminaries have either sadly dropped dead or simply dropped my name from their guest lists.
Have a heart thumpy, goose bumpy, slack-jawed, bug-eyed, mind-boggling day at the all-new Marine World, Africa, USA.
You will watch man pit his courage against the cunning of man-eating tigers, killer whales, and deadly birds of prey. 6 terrorific new shows calculated to tingle the spine and jangle the nerves and leave you limp as a wet noodle. But after the terror, you will stroll through 60 acres of gentle jungle, and you will learn that at least in this rare corner of the world, the music of love has soothed the savage beast.
At the all-new Marine World, Africa, USA.
So new, it's like you've never been there before.
You know, I've written 3 books, and here's my favorite, I think. Christ was an ad man, and it's described as a witty and wild testament on how to create the miracle ads. And here's my second favorite. This is a novel. It's called Highway House, and it's a must for all foodies. And it's a murderous tale about food to chill your spine, churn your stomach, and leave you limp as a wet noodle. That's my book called Highway House. And here's a book called Celebrity. Guess who I bumped into? Now, let's take a visit at a typical book signing. I'd like you to meet a couple of my literary book fans. For instance, one of them, Crusader Rabbit. That's an old cartoon from television. But I'd like you to meet the real Crusader Rabbit, the voice of Crusader Rabbit. Here she is, Lucille Bliss.
Famous ad man is going to
Famous?
be here.
That's for Ninette. Let me get yours.
Right. Talk about his new book. They said Jesus was an ad.
Oh, they did?
They used his
Jesus Christ.
Now how about this creature? One of my favorite people was the person inside of Steven Spielberg's E.T. She's a little lovely person. She was only 2 feet 6 inches tall, but say hello to her. Tammy DeTroy.
You met Tammy DeTroy?
Hi.
This is Larry Hyatt, is it?
Yeah.
Correct. Tammy DeTroy. Tammy's a marvelous actress that will be appearing in many movies and so forth. Would you please keep Tammy in mind for some important upcoming picture?
You know, I wrote these books, but I've never actually read any of them. I think I'm going to find the time to read one of my books.
San Francisco.
I believe I've bought, sold, and developed maybe a few dozen properties in California. Example, this architectural treasure, reputed to have been occupied by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And these magnificent, majestic, painted ladies, as they're called, built in 1887 for a certain California senator. They became registered historic landmarks. This rather ordinary structure, that's me in front, wound up as a centerfold in an old Playboy magazine. The architecture outside was rather ordinary, but inside it was quite the aquatic playground. Now, this building, actually, by current residents, we'll discuss it later, is the largest private estate in the city of San Francisco. And there were a couple dozen more investment properties, from this humble cottage to a few apartment complexes. It's all about Boomtown, from San Francisco, where the real gold mines were not buried in the surrounding mountains, but in the gentle hills of future San Francisco in the form of real estate, where nowadays a one-bedroom house with a leaky roof could well sell for over $1 million.
Thank you for calling the Squished Eyeball Theater. This is Noelle. How may I help you?
Bob, what is the Squished Eyeball Theater?
I can't answer that question because there's an eyeball in my mouth.
Oh, God.
The show is funny, scary, a little bit gross.
It's rather disgusting, if you think about it.
Is this a legitimate theater?
I would call it more an illegitimate theater, but we are certainly in the heart of San Francisco's famed theater district.
On the same city block where theatergoers can enjoy Les Mis.
Enjoy the show tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Patrons can enter the Squished Eyeball Theater.
Very high-class operation here.
This theater of the absurd came from the twisted mind of magician Bob Pritikin.
Delicious.
Who put his own absurd twist on magic. Most magicians, Bob, pull rabbits out of hats, do card tricks, that sort of thing. But you don't.
I had an illusion which I may reintroduce where I pulled a hat out of a rabbit.
Welcome to the Squished Eyeball Theater. Magic with a touch of terror. Grossly entertaining.
Actually, Bob does perform some of the old standby magic tricks.
And that is that. Well, some magicians, you know, execute magic. I'm going to execute you.
Bob took me backstage to show off his unique brand of tragic magic.
I'm going to try to twist your head off. I'm going to turn it in a 360-degree arc until it falls off and flies down the aisle like a bowling ball. First, let's limber those neck muscles. Right. This way first. Then take this 3-foot sword, and I shall lunge it through your gullet.
Okay.
A Niagara blood will pour from your orifice.
This is it. This is your big trick. Bob, don't sugarcoat it. You know, tell me what you really plan on doing.
That's only the beginning, let me assure you. I'm going to chop your head off in a guillotine.
This is sharp.
Thank you, Jonathan. It is quite sharp, and you're very sharp, too.
And is there something wrong with you, Bob? Are you sick in the head?
Oh, extremely, yes. There we go. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Now. 1, 2, 3.
Does everybody have a good time?
No, they have a fabulous time. Go for it. Thank you all.
Of course, the problem isn't that there are too many parking tickets being given out. It's that there aren't enough parking spaces in the city. And another San Franciscan has a modest proposal for creating more of them.
Every square block in this city, on an average, has 5 parking places that can be liberated and offered back to the people. Now,
advertising man Bob Pritikin took me for a walk today to prove his point. He claims the city can find 40,000 extra parking spaces if, for example, bus zones were shortened.
Here's a bus zone where Amtrak pulls in.
Or if parking were permitted by fire hydrants.
There's always space between cars. You can put a tarp over the car. You can put a line here that says parking at your own risk, but parking permitted if the car is damaged with a hose. What is the likelihood of that happening? 1 out of a million.
Or if crosswalks were narrowed.
I don't need a 12-foot crosswalk. I mean, I'm only this wide.
or if parking is allowed in front of unused driveways.
No parking in driveway. There we have no parking in driveway. What driveway? I don't see a garage.
He wants parking permitted in long, multiple garage driveways and the elimination of red zones between driveways because cars are smaller these days, so that not all his neighbors agree with him.
The big car will come up into here, all right? And I can get out from my garage.
I see.
He's submitted his plan to city officials, who he claims have ignored it.
The idea is to increase the quality of the life for the residents of San Francisco and the visitors to San Francisco. Isn't that the idea of government? To find ways to improve the quality of life, not to destroy the quality of life.
Well, there you have it. Two different men with two very different attitudes about how to help parking, which is really a problem here in San Francisco.
Our musical theme at the Mansions Hotel and Restaurant is Try to Remember from the old Broadway musical, The Fantastics.
There's a small hotel with a wishing well. I wish that we were there together. There's no bridal suite, one room, bright and neat, complete for us to share together.
Okay, you're looking at what is probably and has been San Francisco's most famous, if not infamous, hotel. And it's where all the movie stars used to stay. And it was called the Mansions Hotel. And I had about 25 guest rooms. They were all furnished in the most lavish. Let's, as I'm talking about the battle for the survival of the Mansions Hotel, let's just do a series of photos that'll show you this elegant and somewhat nutty hostelry, which I ran for over 15 years. I guess as a sideline, I was not only the owner, but the manager and I was also the janitor in many cases. Now then there was a battle that ensued and went on for 2 or 3 years with the bureaucracy of San Francisco, and I call it all a bunch of bureaucrat. Now most urban centers in the world have a situation where they have ladies, they're usually in their 70s or 80s, and they're little old ladies that have nothing to do except sit home in their comfortable chair and crochet doilies and fight their neighbors. You could have a city with millions of people, and there could be 2 little ladies that demand to have a hearing to hear their complaints. Now, their complaints can be something as ridiculous as a violation of a city's safety code that requires that doorknobs be at a certain level from the floor. Now, in my case, I had doorknobs that were 2 or 3 inches higher or lower than the city planning code permitted. And these 2 ladies, in San Francisco, we called them NIMBYs. That means not in my backyard. So if there's a house next door to yours and you don't like where their doorknobs are, you can call a hearing with the city and have the hotel closed down because of some ridiculous, minuscule violation that was closed down because of 2 NIMBYs. They became even more exercised when I encountered one of them sniffing around and snooping around one of my hotel guest rooms. And I had the nerve to tell this 80-year-old woman and I think I used the F word, and I was not referring to fun and fantastic and fabulous. I was referring to another, I guess it's an adjective. They're all deceased now, these 2 or 3 ladies. I suspect that the good Lord took them out of our lives because they were just too much of a nuisance. The good Lord doesn't like nuisance ladies. Thank you. For a number of years, or should I say semesters, I was Professor Bob at San Francisco State University. My 3-unit course was about mass communication. My students weren't always terribly studious, I might add, and while they would sometimes be throwing paper airplanes, I would feel like throwing up, metaphorically speaking, of course. But it was my deep pleasure being a teacher and being taught at the same time. Let's give a listen to some excerpts from some of my lectures.
You have a product or a service to advertise, and you have a fairly modest budget to advertise it. The question is, how do you get through? There's so much advertising going on in the newspapers, magazines, on television, on radio. How do you get through?
How do you get through with all this competition in advertising? Whether it's a print ad or whether it's radio commercial or what have you. Well, first of all, the content of your advertisement should be relevant to the product or service you're selling. It's got to be about your product. And very few ads or commercials are relevant to the product. They're to entertain, but they shouldn't, their purpose is not to entertain. The purpose of an advertisement is to sell and persuade. Anyway, enough said on that subject. Let me show you one of my favorite commercials that I wrote and produced. And I'm told it sold a lot of paint. Here we go.
Dr. Freud might have had something to say about Fuller paint, about the way it pours and flows. Your inner and outer walls are very personal things. They surround you and protect you, and covered with color, they can warm you up or cool you off or excite you. And with over 1,000 colors, there's a Fuller color that's just the right feeling for you.
You know, regardless of which advertising medium you're using, whether it's a shelf strip in a grocery store or whether it's a skywriting or a billboard or television or radio or what have you, it's a good idea to have a hot, provocative headline. Let's see some of my ads here and see if you agree these are interesting headlines. Now, here's an ad that certainly has a provocative headline, but the key is it relevant to the product being sold? The headline is, on the surface, you'd say, well, it certainly couldn't be relevant. But the headline is, she has 18 breasts and a drawer in her forehead. Now, you might say, well, now, wait a minute. What in the world are you talking about? Is it relevant? Because a good ad is relevant in every detail. Well, in this case, we're advertising a sculpture by Salvador Dali. And it's for an art gallery. And indeed, the sculpture had those characteristics, 18 breasts and a drawer in her forehead. Yes, it was relevant. Here's what I did for Spice Islands. Headline, the ugly truth about our peppercorns. That's almost a confessional. It says here, Spice Islands peppercorns are as ugly as sin, all wrinkled and shriveled up. They look a sight. If you want pretty peppercorns, buy the bargain variety in the boxes or the tins. They're much prettier than ours. They're bigger and they're a little cheaper too, and so forth. Suppose your client has produced the world's first electric douche. I mean, really, how are you going to advertise that with any discretion and good taste? Well, I have my associate here who's going to show you that ad and read it to you.
This is exactly what you think it is. And isn't it marvelous? Gone are the indignities of the rubber syringe, the hose and nozzle, and that horrid thing in the bathroom door that never really was your bag. Say hello to an absolutely marvelous new idea. Aquafem. Aquafem is the modern appliance for douching. Lightweight, portable, and attractive. You can actually display it on the back of the commode, just like a stylish tissue box. It gives you a soft, warm kind of internal mini shower. It makes you feel beautifully refreshed. Not just clean, but immaculate. It takes all of 55 seconds. aquafilm is so simple. One wonders that it was not invented long ago.
Hi, I'm a San Francisco Giants fan, and I used to listen to the Giants play-by-play mostly to hear my grandfather, Grandpa Bob, do the commercials. I think he called himself your Folger reporter. Give a listen and go buy some Folgers coffee.
Please say hello to Jim Folger, president of Folgers Coffee. This gentleman asked me to visit the countries of Central America where his mountain-grown coffee is harvested. I researched and announced, a couple dozen radio commercials which aired for a few years on the San Francisco Giants baseball broadcasts. Please give a listen to one of these antique radio spots.
Bob Pritikin here for Folgers Coffee, speaking direct from the heart of Guatemala City in the beautiful patio office of Roberto Alejos, president of the Guatemala Coffee Association. Senor Alejos, what really makes Guatemalan coffee so special?
Well, first of all, the volcanoes. Much of our coffee grows in lava soil, which is very rich in minerals and gives the coffee beans a delicious flavor.
Well, does the Coffee Association set the standards for flavor and quality?
See, we have agricultural experts to assist all the growers and experienced coffee tasters who sample each crop for flavor and quality, because only our finest crops are prepared for export.
Thank you, Senor Alejos. I'm sure many coffee lovers in my country appreciate the great care taken in your country in growing such outstanding mountain coffee.
Gracias, senor.
Your Folger reporter from Guatemala signing off.
Henry J. Kaiser was not a movie star, but he was surely an industrial star. He's the reason I wound up in San Francisco at his request to write his speeches. Known as the father of American shipbuilding, Henry J. also built numerous industries, including automotive. That's me posing behind the sedan he named after himself, the Kaiser automobile. A man of steel, he built his own steel mill. I remember the words I wrote to introduce it on national television. Hungry for gold, they came west and picked at a mountain with a hide as tough as steel, and with broken picks and shattered dreams, they left to hunt for gold elsewhere, and left behind them a mountain of iron ore to make steel. Kaiser Steel, built to serve the growing West. Whoops, I think I'm getting a little carried away. Next. And now, with your permission, even without your permission, I'd like to share with you my favorite advertisement. The subject, copepods, lugworms, and frog larvae. Believe it or not, I named Googol, the company. Here's exactly what happened. I wrote this ad, and to my knowledge, this ad for the Sierra Club had more exposure than any ad in the history of public service advertising. And somehow, a couple years after this ad appeared, this company appeared called Googol. They changed the spelling. They switched 2 letters. And I confronted the company, the corporate giant Googol, with the opportunity to pay me a few bucks. They turned me down totally. I never got a nickel. Thank you. Here's the ad. Headline, "Don't muddy up the Googol." Then it's explained, Googol is the largest number of things that has a name. Webster defines as the number 1 followed by 100 zeros. There are Googols of little creatures squiggling and burrowing, flitting and squishing under the mud, through the swamps, and over the sandy marshes. Sea squirts, copepods, lugworm larvae, and the babies of little fish. Each with a kind of brain, each with the breath of life, but their life is ebbing, and as they start to go, you do too. You are standing on the threshold of time, in as sacred a place as any in the world. It's where the life of the water and the life of the land converge in biological blur. These are the wetlands, the swamps and the mudflats that sometimes smell like rotten eggs. These are the marshes, clogged with weeds, swarming with bugs, teeming with beautiful life. This is where the moon moves the water in shallow ebbs and floods, where the sun pierces down to the ooze and the nutrients flow in a strange and marvelous way. Nowhere else except here, in these sopping grounds, is there so much life and so much concentration. But the life is dwindling, and as these lands start to go, you do too. These squishy, mushy lands are where most of our fish are born. The fish that feed the fish that feed the fish that fill the sea. These narrow strips of estuarine land are where the birds come to rest and nest and feed, and they are tied inexorably to the life support for the raccoons and the bear and the deer 100 miles away, and to you. In California, most of the wetlands are already gone. In Florida, they're going fast. Once there were 127 million acres of interior and coastal wetlands. Now 40% are gone. The precious specks of life in these lands exchanged for yacht clubs and marinas and industrial growth. As we dredge the bays and fill the marshes and cover the mud with asphalt, as we spray our poisons and scatter our waste and spew oil upon the waters, we destroy forever the great forces of life that began millennia ago. But now we have gone too far, because this planet belongs not only to us, but to them as well, the umpteen zillion other things that fly in the sky and roam on the land and swim in the sea and burrow beneath our feet. Now, especially now, if we will only stop to think, perhaps we will think to stop. The Sierra Club. To repeat, I took the liberty of naming my little movie Googol because I named the company Googol. It all goes back to the year 1967 when I wrote an advertisement for the Sierra Club, and the headline was, "Don't muddy up the Googol." The ad was featured in countless national and international publications. Now, that was before the Google company founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, were even born. Certainly before the word Google was in the public domain. Now the word is on the lips of millions. The only change is the spelling. My spelling of Google was Googol, and the company's spelling, they changed it just a tad, was Google. Someone made a tiny change in the spelling. And Google, the company, thereafter changed the world.
Money makes the world go around, the world go around, the world go around. Money makes the world go around, it makes the world go round.
Hey, the last time I checked the net worth of Google, it was $268 billion.
Money, 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 money.
They're doing okay, but they are doing $50 billion revenue each year.
Money makes the world go around, the world go around, the world.
And there's some $48 billion cash on hand. And this lovely company does engage a staff of 50,000 employees.
It makes the world go round.
Google, if you won't send me a check, however modest it may be, at least send me a thank you note so I can rest in peace. Thank you. Good day. I'd like to thank some of the lovely people who helped put this video together. The producer Anthony Garcia. The editor, Mike Ogata. Production manager, Chris Johnson. And my endearing and enduring children, Tracy Pritikin and Scott Pritikin.
We love you, Dad.
Google doodle rhymes with strudel, schmoodle, poodle, even rhymes with noodle. It's not G-O-O-G-L-E, it's G-O-O-G-O-L. So use your noodle, make it spell G-O-O-G-O-L.
Thank you.